Hey everybody, it is Rollie, and I want to welcome you guys to Monday Whispers Chat. Today is so Monday Whispers Chat is always about being able to feature an inspiring woman, and so today I have Sam Black that is joining us today, and our topic is consciously creating. So I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that I feel very passionate about, and so really super excited to be doing this with Sam. So I'm going to start off with introducing Sam. So Sam Black is the creative visionary behind Consciously Creating and has a passion for helping others explore the gifts that they have inside and help them shine to the world. Operating from the belief that everyone has these gifts and only need the right environment to help them develop, Sam helps her clients see the possibilities in their lives, relationships, and businesses. Sam is a master coach, teacher, and international intuitive. So welcome, Sam. Is there anything else that you'd like to be able to add other than what it is that we've just described in your bio?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you. I think it's pretty much covered. You know, we were kind of guessing because my assistant sent that on to you. So I didn't really know what was written, but I think she captured it pretty well.
Awesome. Isn't it awesome to be able to have assistants to be able to help us with some of these day-to-days? And then you kind of go, oh, what was that I was supposed to do? So Sam was actually supposed to get an email prior to, and there was just a transition in things, and Sam didn't get the email. And it was like, she's like, can you resend it? And I'm like, sure. I go in to find it, and it's like, no, I can't resend it. There is none. So, but we are all in those transitions. We are all ready to be able to kind of go through. So I am just looking for the, while we're actually chatting, I'm still going to try and find us in case there are any other comments. There are some that actually come up through this program, but this program's new to me, so I don't want to miss comments. So I'm trying to find it on Facebook as well. And so Ali Brusso says, hello, ladies. So hello, Ali. So, so can you tell me a little bit about, so for people that don't understand what that means, consciously creating. So tell us a little bit about what does that mean?
Absolutely. So I've got a little bit of a story. My previous lifetime, prior to 2013, I worked in social work and education. And one night I was hit by an impaired driver with a coworker, and I got a burn injury, and I wasn't able to return back to my job. And so, and things like this, you know, doctors and therapists kept saying, oh, she's never going to work again. And I just didn't accept that answer. And I knew there had to be more out there. And in my journey, you know, there's always lots of information about vision boards, which I totally love, and lots of information about setting intention, which again, I think is really important. However, I really think we need to take it one step further, and that's to consciously create, make those action steps and actually follow through to bring those great things into our world. And I can say by doing those things and by taking those action steps, I have a really great life doing things that I love to do. And it's all things that I consciously created. I wanted them in there. And it also helps people step out of that place of victimhood. I could have easily stayed angry and hurt and look at all the things that are happening to me because this guy drove high. And that just didn't resonate with me. It just didn't feel right. I didn't want to live the rest of my life as a victim. I wanted to take action. And I really believe that everybody has something to offer. Everybody has something inside that they can do. So if we stay in that space and just consciously create and keep moving forward, we can bring some pretty amazing things, not just for ourselves, but even more importantly, to the rest of the world. So that's really what it's all about.
Nice. So, and isn't it funny how our lives just kind of take us on this whirlwind and on this spin that kind of takes us from, it's like, we're on this path, this is where we're going. And then it just kind of takes us and throws us completely off kilter. And we then have to try and figure out, where do we go from here? Right? So where do we go from here? What do we do next? And how do we do that? And your story is very similar to a lot of people, right? So there's two different ways of being able to do things. Is that you've got something major happens to you and the situation changes your life, and you can either just sit back and allow yourself to go for the ride, or you can take that step and take that action of being able to step in to where are we going now, and what am I going to do, and how am I going to be able to take control of my life. So Janice was actually hoping to be able to jump on, so I just tagged her so that I can make sure that she actually saw us going live. And so she also commented. So it's amazing to be able to change people's lives. And it's incredible. And so for those of you who are on right now, because we have 4 people, I have 4 eyeballs because I'm watching Facebook and I'm checking out the Be Live at the same time. And the comments are coming up, which is awesome. And Janice also says, take action. And so for any of you who are catching the replay, hashtag replay, and Sam and I will be more than happy to come back and answer any questions. And as we're going along throughout the conversation, if you guys have something to add, then I'm going to try and keep track of comments, as well as trying to stay in conversation with Sam as well, so that we can make sure that we actually get the most out of this day. But in terms of the conversations, that's what this discussion is all about. So I'm really excited to be able to have some amazing ladies that have hopped on. And from what I can see, so I've got oh, actually, look at this. I love this new program. So I can see that Diaculin.
Oh, I've not used it before.
And Ali, we already know, is on, and Faye is on, as well as Janice. And so this is awesome. So I can actually see who the eyeballs are through this program. This is so cool. So I know who my eyeballs are. This is so cool. Actually, no, I can't see all of them, because apparently we have 5 viewers and I can only see 4. So, so I can't see them all. So somebody's still hiding in the background, but pop in and say hello and let us know that you guys are there. So what are some of the things that you actually do to be able to help people make those changes? First of all, maybe how do we start by identifying them?
All right. So I have 2 streams of business that I work with. The first is that I'm a psychic medium. So I help people with, connecting with their loved ones, and also with healing work and things like that. And then I also have my coaching side. And with this, I really help people identify what's going on that they want some change in. And often people come to me and they have no idea. They're like, I don't even know who you are. I don't know why I'm here. I just knew I'm supposed to come see you. And I love when people are that open that they just show up, because that's really the first step. The first step is just to show up and be open to whatever could be. And then we just kind of take inventory. What are the areas in your life that just aren't bringing you happiness, joy, and bliss? What are the areas in your life that are pulling you down, maybe triggering some negative emotions, things like that? And what would you want instead? So that we can shift that and step into, where is this success? Where is this happiness, this love, this joy that I can tap into? Because I really don't believe anyone's here to suffer. I think we've all been brought here for a beautiful reason, even if we don't know what that reason is. But certainly I don't believe it's to suffer. So it's just about stepping in and saying, okay, let's just imagine for a moment what's possible. Because anything's possible. And how do we get there? If we could create just 3 action steps that could get us closer to that goal, what would they be? And so that's really where we get started. And it's different for everyone. There are some people who show up gung-ho, like I'm ready to go. And there's some people who are really hesitant. It's almost, we have to sift through those limiting beliefs that have been holding us back already for all this time. I kind of joke with some of my clients and students and say, no one wakes up in the morning and says, hey, you know what I've never done? I've never talked to a life coach. I should give one a call and see what they do. They've already tried so many different things to bring success into their world that often I'm a last resort, not a first resort. And so we really have to sift through, what are those events and limiting beliefs that have already been holding you back? Because I know you've already tried some really different things to try to move forward, and kind of sift through what worked, what didn't, and just move on with those strengths.
And it makes a huge difference when we start to identify. So Janice says, oh my God, you can see me. LOL. And Janice says, I'm a mess right now. And that's one of the things that we're hoping to be able to talk about, some of the things that we can do to be able to change those things. And Ali says, haha, your name was given to me by another friend, Sam. So you're quite popular.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You know, I want to say to Janice, it's okay. It's okay to be a mess sometimes. That is the universe's way of saying, guess what? Things are about to get exciting. And we can choose to either get lost in the mess or to clean it up and see what gems are hiding underneath it. Yeah. And so I think it's exciting, Janice. There's good stuff ahead for you.
So, and Janice is probably thinking, okay, seriously? Right? So, but it is so true that we can actually take the situations that we live in and make it so that life is going to be so horrible, or it's going to be that we're never going to make it through. We're never going to be able to make those changes. And when we stay stuck in those moments, then it makes it difficult for us to try and move past. And so like what I mean by that is, so for example, like my glass is always half full. So it doesn't matter that the world is coming down around me most of the time. I can't say 100% of the time because I'm human, but most of the time I can actually find those little sparkles of something that allows me to be able to, so my dad's health has not been well for a number of years, but the good part of that is that I get to spend a lot of time with my dad on medical travel trips, right? So like, that's not the best way to go and spend time with my dad, but it is the way to be able to spend time with my dad. So, so it's being able to find those little, like you said, those gems that are actually hiding under that mess. And so Emily says, yes, it is exactly. And Janice's response is, huh, yay! Black hearts. Oh, actually, no, the black hearts on Be Live, but they're red on Facebook. So.
You know, I love that you mentioned the whole half glass, because certainly I think for many years I've, you know, been considered to be very resilient, even as a small child, with things that I've gone through, which is not unlike many of your listeners, I'm sure. And I always thought, you know, the half full, absolutely. Of course the glass is half full, not half empty. And what I've really shifted to believing now is that it doesn't matter, because I can go pour more into it anytime I need to. I can just keep refilling the glass. So it doesn't really matter how much is in it, because if it's not full enough for me, I'm just going to put some more in. And I really think that it's that whole shift of stepping out of things happening to us where we're not in control, to stepping into that power and trusting that the universe shows up for us. Things don't happen to us. And it's funny, because if you'd said to me 6 years ago, hey, Sam, you know, the universe is showing up for you, there was a time that I was really angry. I would have said, my pension's gone, my job is gone, I am sleeping 20 hours a day, I've got horrible headaches. Well, I could have gone on and on and on and on. And I just woke up one moment and went, I actually lived. I have a heartbeat. I have an opportunity to do things for people. My amazing husband's here with me. I have all my children. We're healthy. I've got a brain injury, but I'm healthy otherwise. And it was being able to make that shift and go, okay, well, if it's not working for me, what do I need to change in me, rather than trying to change the external world?
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is very ironic is because my background is in mental health and addictions as well, like coming from that background. And that's the challenge when we're actually a professional coming out of that as well, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, we're supposed to have control of all these things, and we're supposed to know all these things. But one of the things that no matter how much knowledge that you have or how much experience that you have, when you're actually living through it, it is difficult. And so when I went through my major depressive disorder a few years ago, when my clients used to say to me, I can't put my feet on the floor. And my response was like the rote response was always, you just need to do it. right? So just take that step and do it. But I had those days, and it was months. And I was actually under those covers and not wanting to come out unless I absolutely needed to come out. And then I went right back into it. Like I just stayed in my bed for almost 2 months. And any opportunity that I had to just be able to just go back to bed, then that's exactly what it is that I did. And those were things that were really difficult. And because it's like, I can't tell people that I'm struggling. I continued to work through no matter how difficult it was, because before I actually had my major depressive disorder, or at least before I was diagnosed, I shouldn't say before I had it, because it was actually happening long before I was diagnosed. I was going through it was a full year of events that were actually happening, and I was having difficulty with them, but I was brushing them off because I was doing just put my pants on and put my steps on and just move my way forward, but I wasn't dealing with it. And so for those of you who are watching, it's just really important for you for a little bit to be able to be allowed to be in it, and it's okay to be in it, but to be able to recognize that you're in it and being able to take that step forward and reaching out to people to be able to get out of that. And gratitude was what it is that saved me. So when you actually talked about like being able to like that, this is what's going on, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. So I had gone in to see my therapist, and I said, okay, I come up with a plan. And well, actually I was supposed to see her, and I had come up with a plan, and she didn't, she canceled the appointment. And then I called her back, so when we rescheduled, I sent her an email and said, okay, well, this was my plan that I was going to share with you. I'm going to get started with it. And that first thing was being able to get up every morning and share gratitude. And because it was easy for me to be able to hide under the covers, I started posting it on Facebook. That was my Facebook status. Day 1, gratitude. Day 2, gratitude. And I had gone on for months, to the point where I had a family member say, well, how long are you going to, like, how many more days are you doing this? However many more days that I need to. And because I didn't share with everybody at that point that I was struggling. I was under doctor's care is the only thing that I shared. So.
Yeah. And I love that you share this for a few different reasons. The first is that many of us, because I was, frontline work, we're exposed to a lot of trauma, and we're the helpers of the world. We're the healers of the world naturally. So we take on a lot. And at the same time, we're still living with those DNA programming of the last few hundred years of don't ask for help, be isolated, all of those things that, thank goodness, our generation is starting to unravel because we don't need them. But it's hard to say, yes, I'm the professional, and at the same time, I have bad days too. It is a challenge, but I believe that by us sharing our stories, we're coming out of that more and more. And I can say I certainly have had many days under those covers as well. And it's part of the reason why I started doing radio, because I wanted to share, but with a brain injury, some days my face doesn't look the same. Some days my one eye droops a little bit. I look really tired. And the one thing I struggled with was people saying, oh, you look so tired. What's wrong with you? Because like, no, I'm not showing that. So I could hide behind the radio. No one could see me. So if I needed to do that from bed because I had a headache that day, I could do it. And I have. Let me tell you, I've done radio shows from my bed. You can do it. It's just about doing what you can with what you've got in the moment without judging, well, I had this yesterday, or I should be doing this. We've got to get rid of those things because they're not working for us. And just sharing those stories and doing the best that we can in the moment that we have with what we have. And I love that you did that with gratitude, because certainly gratitude is probably one of the best medicine I've ever received. And when I would go into those funks, maybe a physio was really hard on me, or, I was lonely because I didn't see my friends. They were all work related, right? Things like that. I would just stop. Physically stop. If I was walking, it didn't matter what I was doing, physically stop and say, okay, 10 things right now. What are you grateful for? And shaking them up, making them different every day. And, I love how you do your gratitude challenge, because honestly, anybody who's listening, that is probably the number one first step that's going to get you going. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, so Janice says, yes, I know the feeling of not being able to tell people. And so we definitely hear you. And Ali says, do you ever get stuck in your own limiting beliefs, and how did you get over them?
Absolutely. So here's one that I've had for as long as I can remember. And I'm still working on it, Allie. So I'm giving you the raw deal here. So I've had a belief that I can't count on others. And it's shown up for me since childhood. You know, I had a mom with significant mental health issues. So I, you know, was an adult at a really young age. And in work, when I would go on holidays, which, you know, doesn't often happen when you're we're doing frontline work, but I'd actually take my holiday, I'd come back to a big mess. And so I'd tell myself, oh my gosh, like I just can't count on anybody. If I have to do it, I need to do it myself. And I know I'm not the only woman with this belief. I know it, so I'm sharing it. And you know, even down to hiring staff and things like that, it pops up for me. So it's a belief I'm still working on. I haven't totally figured it out yet, what the lesson is. And I think, Allie, that's the secret, figuring out what is the lesson. If it's showing up for you, there's a reason. And I believe it's not to punish us. There's a reason that's built in love. There's a reason built in helping you elevate to a higher consciousness, increased love, and ability to share that knowledge with others. So, Allie, I will let you know when I figure it all out. I feel like I chip away at this one. It's a gemstone that I'm chipping away at with my little pick, but I'm getting there. And you know, one that I did have that I really have gotten through really well. And it's so funny because music tied into it so well. So I had a song for my life. It would show up for me whenever things were tough. And I looked at it as it made me feel good. I know all the words, I can sing along. However, that song was really helping my ego to run in the opposite direction instead of getting through tough times. And that song was Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. It showed up for me in so many different situations. I now know when that shows up for me or when that feeling shows up for me, it's not showing up so that I jump in my car and take off. It's showing up so that I can make a choice. Is this working for me or not? So that's one that I definitely have worked through. And I get a little giggle when it shows up for me now. How about you, Rollie? Do you have a song or something like that that shows up for you?
I have different ones that show up. So kind of depends on what it is that's going on in my life. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. But the very first thing that I thought of when you were saying that something that shows up is the Serenity Prayer. So the time that I was 14, I actually started working on my mental health. And because I was a teenage child of an alcoholic. And so there was a lot of dysfunction in our home. And so that was one of the things that I was taught at that very young age that I just kind of carried through. So that piece of being able to do that. So please share your song, Allie. So Allie says, I have a song as well. Susan says, please let me know too, since I was young as well. And Allie says, thank you for sharing. And I'm not sure at what point that something was similar to her, but she said, yes, we share the same. So there's something in terms of something that you said. And Jana says, oh, yes, I never ask any of my friends for help. I only ask my mom for help. And so, like, please, like, if you guys have these songs, if you guys have some feedback, so whether you're here on the replay or here live, then share some of these things. And so if you guys happen to share something and we've kind of gone on and we're not quite sure what it is that you're referring to, then we'll ask for some clarification as well. So like that's definitely something that we'll be able to do. So
I touch on not asking our friends for help, because as I've already admitted, it was a tough one for me. And I'd really challenge everybody watching. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm challenging you, ask three of your friends to help you with it. Because what I've found in working with women is women want to help. We want to be of service. And how many times do friends say, oh, if you need something, give me a call. And then people don't call them and ask them, right? And there's many who want to show up and be there for you. And I think once we practice the asking and receiving, it starts to feel good. And then, you know, we're actually giving them a gift by allowing them to help us. Often when people don't ask for help, they look as though they're the strong ones. So people don't assume that they need anything. And by being vulnerable and saying, hey, you know, I really could use some help, they actually feel really good to be of service back, because chances are you've helped them many times.
And it makes a huge difference when you do take that step, right? But it's difficult. It is really difficult for a lot of us to step into it. So Ali actually says, God's Plan by Drake, comes on when I need it most. So, and again, it's that universal thing, right? So like the universe just kind of slaps things in front of you that says, oh, that sounds familiar, right? So it's like those different things of, that just kind of come up for us when we're going through things. And so what are some of the challenges that you see with some of your clients that do come forward that say, okay, Sam, I'm ready to start working. I want to be able to work on some of these limiting beliefs. What are some of the challenges that you see that your clients face when they come forward at that point?
I want to say the top two that I see would be not understanding what they have to offer, would be number one. And the second one, not having a supportive network around them to support them in their journey. So that's a lot of the work we do together, is to really get serious about, you know, what do you have to offer and why do you love to offer it? And what are the ways you can express those gifts? And then also, how can we build you a healthy network that's going to journey with you and build you up as opposed to tearing you down? Yeah, I'd say those are the top two.
And it's just, and like you said, that community or those ideas are like really great ways of being able to do this. So Janice says that it's not a song, but she's been seeing 1111. So definitely a universal sign of messages coming forward, right? So
absolutely. It's neat, the things, the commonalities too, because, you know, Janice, you're not the only one seeing those numbers. People call me all the time. Okay, I keep seeing 1212 or 444, and what on earth is going on? I can't tell you exactly what they mean because I don't do numerology, but I can tell you if you're noticing something, whether it's numbers or a certain car or something, the universe is just trying to send you a message to just be open to whatever fun is coming your way and trust that it's for your best and highest.
Yeah. And those messages are like, and they can come in forms of like a lot of different things, right? So, so it could be that you are seeing butterflies all the time, or you're seeing a specific animal. And so one of the things that I haven't had a chance to look up, because I don't typically when I travel. So for those of you who do not know where I am, in northeastern Ontario, and we are surrounded by wildlife all over the place, right? So we have wildlife all over the place through our highways. And so everywhere that we have to go, we have to drive a highway. We don't have an option. And so, so kids that have their G2s are not supposed to be driving on major highways, and they're allowed to drive on a major highway in our area because it's the only way for them to be able to get to point A to point B, because it's the only option. Whereas when they go down south, there are different options, but for us, there are no options. And so I went driving in the last 3 days. And so in the last 3 days, I have seen 2 moose. And so I want to look up what the medicine for moose is. And because like, I know that other people see moose, and I'm always very thankful that when I do see them, that they're off on the side. But I don't typically see them. And so actually, no, I saw 3 because I saw another one on my way back. So I have to check to see what moose medicine is, because obviously the moose is giving me a message. Because like I said, typically I don't see wildlife, and I always cross my fingers that they keep me safe, and always ask for support while I'm traveling. But but again, it's those different messages. And so some people will be like, so they're a moose, like we see them all the time. Like, what difference does it make? We live in Northern Ontario, right? So, but for me, that is like, they are messages for me because I don't typically see them. So I'm very lucky and fortunate when I'm driving the highway that I don't typically see them. So I have to look up moose medicine.
Moose especially are such a rare gift. I'm a Northern girl too. And I used to always want to see them, right? I've probably only seen, when driving, maybe 5 in my whole entire lifetime. I'd seen some in our property by Sault Ste. Marie as a child, but they're a real gift to see them. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is go for a drive and watch for the bear and the moose and things like that. I certainly don't get those experiences here, but my husband and I will go deer watching. You're going to find deer, but finding other wildlife isn't quite as easy around here. And it's so neat. I was traveling a couple weeks ago and I saw 2 giant hawks, one on my way there and one on my way back. And so it's wonderful when we get these signs.
Yep, it is. And so Jana says, or first Ali says, I love angel numbers. And Jana says, yes, I'm on the right path. And Ali is supporting her. So thank you.
Oh,
and so, and then Janice also says, absolutely, signs are everywhere. And so really great that the people that are actually joining today are like definitely in that realm and are very open. And it makes a huge difference when we actually are at that point. So sometimes you have clients that come forward that are at that point, ready to change, and that still don't move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that can be for so many different reasons. So one of the strategies that I use is we really dig deep to figure out, are they externally motivated or internally motivated? And then once we've figured that out, we can make sure that everything's in alignment for success. So here's an example. I previously, a couple years ago, had a client, and she very much wanted to have a home practice doing Reiki. However, she had an elderly mom living with her, and she had a husband with addiction issues and mental health. So she never knew when he would be home, and she never knew, if mom was having a good day or bad day. And so we really talked about that internally and externally motivated, and she very much was externally motivated. So although she internally was saying, I would love to have this, I would love to give to people, the external factors in her life didn't support that dream, because she couldn't be pleasing them and putting them first and offering a practice in her home at the same time. And so what she ended up doing was sharing with a massage therapist in her office. She would get it just 2 mornings a week, so it didn't impact her mom's scheduled doctors and things like that. And she could feel good about leaving the 2 mornings a week and offering that at the massage therapist's office. So, we really kind of come up with, where's your goal, and is it realistic with what you currently have, and what tools and strategies do you need so we can make this a reality and you feel good about it? Because if we're moving towards something and it doesn't feel good, that doesn't really keep us on that path for success. I've got another story about a lady where it just wasn't in alignment. She really wanted to get a job downtown Toronto. She lived about an hour away from there. So that commute is not 1 hour, it's 2 hours. And she had young kids, single mom. And so, she said, for years, this is what I've always wanted, so I'm resenting my life because I don't have it. So we worked towards making it happen. And she realized within a month, you know what, this isn't really what I want. I want to be home closer to my kids. So we were able to go, okay, well, what is it you get out of downtown Toronto in that sphere? How can we recreate that where you are so you get the best of both worlds? And that's exactly what we did. So, it's really just about figuring out what are those roadblocks and what do we need to do to get under them, around them, or over them.
And there's always a way, right? So if that is definitely your desire, and there's always a way of being able to kind of get up and around, like you said, right? So like there's different ways of being able to do things. And so Ali says, hawks and eagles circle my home. So that's actually pretty important.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So, but it's just really important that because we get stuck, right? So like, that's one of the things that, so over the years, I've had different clients that, because I've worked for different agencies, so they were in where we live, there's a lot of clinically, or like some government funded programs that allow you to be able to have access to stuff. And a lot of times the clients that I would have would not be motivated to change. And so oftentimes I would actually have clients that would come in and say, okay, well, I need to come in and I need to do all these things, and you're supposed to like be able to help me with that. But we, as the person, as the practitioner, can only take people so far, right? So you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. And it doesn't matter whether they are paying themselves or whether it is government funded. It doesn't matter what it is that you do. You have to have that that internal desire to change, and you have to have those in what we refer to clinically is the stages of change. Right. So like you have to be in that stage of readiness to change. And sometimes people are in that stage and we need to just be able to help move them through, and that works. But then, like you said, when you come up with that resistance and they have some difficulty, they need to be ready to be able to take that next step forward. So it doesn't matter who you work with. If you do not have that motivation to be able to move forward, they can't wave a magic wand to make things better. And even if you have somebody who claims to be a magician, it doesn't make any difference. They're still not going to be able to wave a magic wand to make your life look different. You have to make your life look different. And I think that is something that is extremely important, but being able to have some support, right? So having that support around you. So for example, having a client, I have a client who has all these wants and desires to be able to make changes, but is very codependent, has some really struggles in terms of codependency. And every time she starts taking steps forward, her family puts demands on her that she then needs to please their desires, their situation, whatever it is that's going on for them. And then you can actually see her starting to slide back. We've continued to work together. So like we've seen huge, like when we go from where we first started to where she is now, like there's huge changes and there's a huge gap. So when she slides back, she's not sliding back to where she started. She's just sliding back, and she will come back again. But one of the things that I think that is really amazing is that probably in the last 6 months is that when she starts to slide back, I'm not the one telling or pointing out anymore that she's sliding back. I don't have to be the one that says, oh, okay, this is what's happening, right? So it's that being able to make those changes and making those shifts of making those changes. And when you do, it makes all the difference, right? So
absolutely. And that, I want to remind her, right, we can't slide all the way back. So even when it feels like you are, it's not possible. And, one of my friends, she gave me this example and I love it. You can imagine there's a mountain and the goal is climb the mountain, right? And so you go to the bottom of the mountain and there's all kinds of people there. There's tour guides, there's people who sell stuff, there's people who, attract the tourists. And then you get these groups of people that are like, yes, I'm going to climb the mountain. And some of them will go up a little bit of the way and they're like, nope, I can't. I'm going back down. But they've still seen that view. So even if they go back down, they're telling everybody who's down there, I only made it this far, but you won't believe what I saw. There's more that'll go even further and even further and even further. And they can't erase that view. They can't erase that perception of what they've been able to see from that vantage point. And we can do the same thing in our lives too. When we've had growth, we can actually see a much bigger picture. And once we have that bigger picture, it's kind of hard to think small again. So
yeah. I really like that analogy. That is beautiful. Right? So, because you're right, we can't change what it is that we've already experienced.
That's right.
We can adjust it, and that comes with the good and the bad, right? So, like we've had good experiences, we've had bad experiences, and being able to change some of those things allows us to be able to make those shifts and make those changes. And oftentimes, I see people that look at somebody who's been extremely successful, and they've been able to get out and and be free, and they have all these different things. But when we are looking at their life right now in this moment, life is great and life is grand, and a lot of actors or a lot of artists often have those experiences. Like, not all of them, obviously. Some of them have had good experiences, but a lot of them have like started at the bottom and like really rose their way to the top. And so one of the ones that was actually really interesting that I just saw recently was The Rock. And so he actually, and I can't remember what his real name is, but like The Rock, everybody knows.
Johnson.
What's that?
Dwayne Johnson.
That's it. And so he was actually doing, I caught one of his videos that he actually had where he was actually in Hawaii, and he was sitting in front of his apartment building from when he was a kid. And he said, like, here, and he said, like, when I go back to my neck of the woods, like, I go back to all the places, and so his family and friends that are with him know that, like, this is the place that he got arrested for this, and this is the place where he got arrested for that. And that is how he actually goes along his conversation. And one of the things that he said is, like, for probably the last hour, I've been sitting outside of our apartment building. And he said, and just kind of contemplating, and he said, I'm probably sitting here and people are thinking I'm a creep because like, I'm sitting in my, like, his big truck with his tinted windows. And he's like, but I'm just looking at this place and like wondering, the people that are in my apartment, are they struggling the same way that we were? Do they have food, or are they lacking food like when we were kids, or like all these different things? And he was kind of talking a little bit about his background. And then he had pointed the camera to the apartment building, and then turned it around to the other side where it's like this great big huge sky rise. And he said, and like, I remember sitting out here, coming out of my building and thinking, wow, I want to live in that one of these days. And he's like, I have the money to be able to do that, but it took a lot for me to be able to get here. And so his message was, don't give up. Don't give up on any of the things that you want to be able to do. And that is something that is extremely important for us to be able to remember. And I think that fits beautifully with consciously creating. Like, how does that fit?
Absolutely. And that really is what it's all about. Gathering that vision of, what do I want instead? If something's not working for you, that's great, because that means you've received the message telling you this isn't really what you want. So what do you want instead? And you get that vision of it. And when we have that vision, we can then imagine, who are the people who would live in that high rise? Who are they hanging out with? What do they do for a living? I wonder what they needed for education or schooling or contacts in order to get there. And we can just imagine all those things, because that will tell us what we need. It's so interesting. If we just think, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, really, my husband was told to put me in a dark room, that I would never work again. 6 years ago. And thank goodness I decided, no, that's not the rest of my life. I need to make choices. I need to do things, whether that was take a coaching course 4 times and teach it, so that it would become so ingrained in me that I would remember, because memory was a struggle. Or connecting with people who really brought the light out in me, as opposed to heavy darkness. We all have people in our world that we love them because we're loving beings, but let's face it, they're not healthy for our survival. They don't promote the things that we're trying to bring in. And so it's not about, but it is about creating healthy boundaries. And that's another creation piece that we address in my program, is what are those healthy boundaries? Who do we want in our dream team? And who are the people that we love from a distance, right? And creating that. And then just those steps. What do I need? What is missing so that I can achieve that? And knowing that it may not be a sprint. It's not, it might be the case of the tortoise and the hare. They're both going to get there. One gets there faster than the other, and that's totally okay. It's all a journey. It's all a journey, and we're just bringing in the things that we want in our world.
And it's, and I like the fact that you said that it's all a journey, right? So just because the person beside you is getting to where they want to be sooner, doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get there. And it doesn't mean that if you've gotten there and you've slipped back because of whatever else that's happened, that you're not going to be able to get there again. It's just that next stepping stone or that crossroads, right? So like that's the other part too, is that sometimes we think that this is the path that we want to be able to go down, and this is where we want to be able to, what we want our lives to be able to look like, or how that we were going to make those shifts. And I think that you also do, because I know that we've been talking about life coaching, but I think that you also do business coaching as well, right?
Do absolutely, right? Yeah.
So like,
and corporations, but my passion really is in helping women create their own business from their gifts and strengths that they didn't even know they had. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've seen, because I don't work with businesses specifically. I do like the life coaching part of things. So I don't do the business aspect, but because I've been ingrained in the kind of stepped into the entrepreneurial world, and so that I can get that support and I can get that connection. That's one of the things that I see, and the patterns that I see is that women are at those crossroads. Like, where do I go? Right? So we've got this person telling us we should be doing this, and this person telling us we should be doing that. And so I always, when I start to get wrapped into that kind of stuff with the changes of like, where do I go? How do I do this? And what's going to happen is being able to kind of step back into saying, okay, where do I want to be able to go? What do I want it to be able to look like? And so in the last 4 years, my business has shifted and changed and transformed, because when I first started, it was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go and do all the things that I've been doing for the last 18 years. And so I'm just going to step into from the psychotherapy world and just do that personally on my own. And that's what it's going to look like. But that's not what felt right for me. So being able to shift and change. And so, but that was fearful, because it's like, I don't want people to know that I have some spiritual beliefs that are not necessarily the same as everybody else's, right? They're going to think that I'm wacko, right? So now it's like, it's okay. You think that I'm wacko? It's okay. So I'm hoping.
I totally understand. And I can remember when I, stepped out of the spiritual closet, it was scary because I worked with clients and it's right in the psychiatric evaluation. Do you believe in ghosts? So, I mean, it's not something you go around advertising. But, it's so funny. One of my teachers, Lisa Williams, she said, before I see you next, the next person who asks what you do, you have to tell them. And I'm like, well, I can tell some people, but not all. And she goes, no, cut the crap. Just the next person who asks. And you want to know who was the next person to ask? A great big giant border security guard at LAX. That's who was the next one to ask. And oh my goodness, he just kind of finally because I beat around the bush, and he finally just said, just tell me what you do. I said, well, I'm here because we're going to talk to dead people. And he went, just go. And I figured if I can tell that guy at LAX what I do, then I can tell anybody. But it's so interesting because I hit it so well at work. I've had 3 former supervisors contact me and say, this makes so much more sense. We just thought you had really good informants. And I said, well, I did. But it's so interesting because they now come to me for coaching and readings. Right in the places that I thought I had to hide myself from. So what a beautiful lesson that I learned in that, and that we just need to show our true self, because our people will show up for us. And, I misjudged them, to be quite honest, because I could have been more helpful if I'd just been myself.
And it makes a really huge difference, right? So it makes, and so I'm not sure how things are going to go, because I just had my formal grand opening, because I've, like I said, I've been in business for 4 years, and after 4 years, I do a grand opening, right? So, so I just had that on Friday. And so I'm interested to see how the reporter actually does my article in terms of the grand opening, because she was asking some questions, and I'm like, deep breath. Just say the truth. Just say the truth. So I'm interested to see how all that is going to come into play, because I've gone from, like I said, because like you said, it is part of the DSM, right? So it is part of the diagnosed. Like when we would go through and help to do the assessments, we would actually be asking those questions. Do you see ghosts? Do you hear things? Do you feel things? Right? And so I don't hear or feel things, or see things, but I feel things. Right? So I have so I feel energy around me, but I'm not a medium, so I don't speak to. But I know that they're there, right? So, but it's kind of funny because so I had somebody who joined a circle that I had, and so one of the things that, and I have other people that have very strong beliefs in terms of that mediumship, but I also have the background and knowledge of what the diagnoses are, right? So, so I'm very cautious when I have somebody that does come in with mental health issues. So this particular person came in with a psychiatric or a schizophrenia diagnosis. So this person is hearing voices, and so it's not the same as mediumship. So like there's two
different, very different, yeah.
So it's very, it's very different. And so the one person in the circle says to her, well, that's okay. It just maybe means that you're actually talking to ghosts and that you're actually seeing things. And I'm like, but at the same time, you need to also listen to your psychiatrist. It's like, let's not take down that path, right? And it may be that part of the things that she's feeling and experiencing is from being able to connect with some of the other side, but at the same time, there is still that fine line of being cautious, right? So, so when somebody has
boundaries, the healthy boundaries with the live ones and the dead ones, right? Yeah. So that we can get an understanding, because you're right, it is very different when we're working with mental health. That is usually triggered by event or something. We need to heal our stuff rather than oh, okay, it's just spirit. No, it's not necessarily the case. So the mind is an amazing thing. And, you know, so I love that you raised that point, because it's really important for people to understand that connecting with spirit or being empathic or whatever the case may be is not the same as something manifesting from a mental health perspective.
And like I said, that was why. So when this situation happened, I'm glad that I have that background that allows me to be able to step in, because one of the things that I have seen is where people have decided that they're going to do the natural part of things, and I'm all for natural, like definitely. That is holistic is definitely one of the things that that I look at and that I really promote. However, there's still that fine line of making sure that if there is something that's going on, that people are actually still taking the precautions or the necessary steps that are so always still making sure that you're reaching out for to see a doctor to see what it is that's going on and that kind of thing. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, when I'm working with my clients and consciously creating their life or their business, I really stress that healing needs to happen on 3 levels in order for it to be successful. The physical, meaning the body, the emotional, mental, and also the spiritual. And so we need to look at all of these different facets and heal them all together. So it's so important that we don't just dismiss something because it's uncomfortable. You know, we have wonderful resources around us, and I'm not a one-stop shop, you know, so see me for, you know, some of the emotional and spiritual, but definitely you need to see somebody else to address some of those physical things that are happening. And I'm sure it's the same with your practice. That's what holistic wellness is. It's not just doing, you know, going to see one person for everything. It's create your dream team. See who is it that you need in there to support you and guide you. And even us as coaches have our own dream teams. That's part of the reason we're successful. Because in line, and we have people we can go to when we're feeling down. So, so I think it's just one of the steps for success for sure.
Yeah, and those are extreme. Those are really extremely important things that we actually have to remember is that, and that goes back to one of the things that you said near the beginning of being able to have those supports around you, right? So being able to figure out who are those supports, how are they supporting you, and how are they hindering you, right? So like you've got those 2 different ways of being able to take a look at the people that are around you and who can you actually reach out to. And one of the most important things I think that it's important for people to know is what resonates for you, right? So if it resonates for you, and I'm huge on saying, and I say this all the time, and I know that other people do as well, but take what you need and leave the rest, right? So take what you need, leave the rest. If part of that resonates with you, then take it. And sometimes part of that will resonate with you right now, and a year from now, you'll be like encountering the exact same information, whether it's with the same person or with somebody different. And it's kind of like, oh, there's a little another piece and that nugget that I have to take. And that's where I'm going to be able to kind of take that to my next part of the journey. So I'm going to stick that in my pack and move forward. So and one of the things where I see people struggle the most is when they're trying to take it all in all at the same time. We can't absorb it all. We have to take what we need and throw away the rest and focus on being able to take that to our next level. So
absolutely. And you know, we're always doing the best we can in the moment we have. So some tools just might not be as readily accessible to us if we're in a really emotional state, for example, if we're very overtired, or, you know, so just being judgment free and understanding that I'm going to do the best I can in this moment, and I'm going to reflect on it so that if something wasn't great, next time it will be, right? And tapping into those resources then, because we're all just a work in progress, and we get to be a masterpiece at the same time. And I love that saying because it's so true.
Actually, I've never heard that, and I love that, right? So it's because it is so true, like, because you've got those two sides of the coin that you actually have to look at. So I can't believe, actually I can believe, because like I said, when we first started, is that, but things just flowed so beautifully and so naturally that we have 4 minutes left. So is there anything that you want to be able to share, Sam, that we haven't touched on that you think is a really good, important message that, or information that you think that people need to know?
Absolutely. I just really want to stress again that you are a divine spark. You're here for a reason. So if anybody's listening and they are having a difficult time in their life, or they just don't know where to go or where they fit in, I'm promising you that you do fit in. And there are beautiful gifts inside you that are just waiting to come out. So just trust that you're here for a reason, and know that there are people who love you, even if you don't even know them yet.
And so for anybody who wants to be in contact with Sam, is if you actually look at the description above, they'll actually be, or on the side, depending on how you're looking. I like that, right? It's like kind of like go around in the circle and figure out around the face as to where you're going to be able to connect. But but her contact information is definitely there. Both of her websites are there for you to be able to reach out to, and definitely respond back to any comments here on the chat, and Sam will definitely be able to give you that information. I was going to say Janice because I see her name. It's like Janice maybe can give you some answers as well. I really don't know. And if she can, awesome. So, but like if you wanted to be able to reach out to Sam, then definitely. Now, Sam, is there anything that you're offering right now that you think would be important for somebody to, or that somebody may be interested in joining or participating in?
Absolutely. So if you visit my Consciously Creating with Sam website, I have two options. One is Consciously Creating Your Life, and that is a 10-month journey where we really go through to bring forward whatever it is you're wanting in your world. And it's an online course. And then also I have my Consciously Creating Your Business Mastermind. And this is good for women in any level of business. So you could be right at the beginning. You could be somebody who's been in it for 5 or 10 years. There is something for every community. We build community online. So we have women across North America, but of course, anywhere is welcome. So those are two great options that I have. And of course, for anyone who's interested, I will be teaching at Lilydale again this summer. So I'll be there in August. So yeah, those are some of the fun things that I have coming up.
Awesome. So what I just did was I just added in the comments the one for your life, and I'm actually going to go back and find the and click on the other link and put that in the comments as well, just so that it's easier, just because I know that for me, it's like for me to actually have to go back and try and find it some days. That's always a challenge, because it depends on where my brain is at that day. So keeping it simple always helps me.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I appreciate it when people like give those links where I can actually just click on it and go. So I just put those 2 links in that that Sam just talked about. So the your life and your business. So you guys can have access to that as well as still going to visit her website. But if you're joining the conversation, then this is the discussion. And so Janice thought that it was actually pretty funny when I said that people can ask her questions as well. So I want to thank you guys for joining in this conversation. Like we have, and again, I love this program because it actually tells me that we have 36 comments, and 2 of which are my comments because I just put those 2 links in. But we have 36 comments in this discussion, which means that we had an amazing conversation. So thank you very much for participating. And for those of you catching the replay, #replay, we would love for you guys to be able to give us some feedback, or if you guys have any conversations in terms of the discussion of what it is that you want to be able to share. And we definitely welcome you guys to do that. And so for those of you who are entrepreneurs, or not even necessarily entrepreneurs, that actually want to share a specific topic of something that you guys are really passionate about, that you guys want to be able to talk. Most of the people that come on are entrepreneurs, not always. I've had some that are not, that have shared their own mental health experience, or that have shared their experience with breastfeeding. Or what it's like to be a stay-at-home mom. So like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but most of the people that tend to join me on these lives are people that are entrepreneurs. But if you have a topic that you want to be able to share, that you guys want to be able to talk about, feel free to be able to join in the, to be able to sign up as Sam did, to be able to be part of the discussion. So this series is all about being able to inspire women to be able to be the best that they can be, and to take the steps or the actions, and to know that we're not alone. Because I think that that's the biggest thing, is that oftentimes we feel isolated. And so these broadcasts have really showed a lot of women that they're not alone. And so the connections that women have made from other women that have actually been part of these discussions have been amazing. And so I know that people have actually reached out to some of our guests that have been on, and but also have reached out to each other. And so, and the reason I know that is because they've actually sent me messages saying, you know, I was talking with Janice, or I was talking with Allie, or that kind of thing. And like, we really connected, we really bonded during those conversations. And so we actually reached out to each other, and we've actually been able to form some conversations, and we've grown, and we've connected that way. So there's a lot of different ways of being able to connect with other women, to be able to bring that network around you, like that Sam was talking about at the beginning. So thank you, and look forward to talking to you guys on Monday. And thanks so much, Sam, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting again.
Bye, everyone.